take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Tuesday, February 24th, 2015, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us. So glad you could be here today. We've got 2 hours of news, interviews, and views you can use for the cannabis community. Make sure you're telling all your friends we're here live on 420radio.org every weekday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time with replays at 6 p.m., 3 a.m., and 6 a.m. Brought to you by .buzz, vapes.buzz, and, of course, Portland Normal, law offices of Omar Figueroa, and the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference. And speaking of the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference, Alex Rogers, the man behind that conference and the international conference, will be speaking to us at 45 past the hour. I think he's coming into the studio, but if not, we'll have him on Skype or phone line, talking about the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference taking place March 15th and 16th. That's going to be in Eugene, Oregon at the Eugene Hilton. And I know he's got Governor Gary Johnson, the former Libertarian presidential candidate, will be speaking at the event. So Steve D'Angelo will be there as well, plus a whole bunch of other great speakers, Anthony Johnson, Debbie Goldsberry, and more. You can check out ommbc.com for more information. Also on the show today at 5:30, we are going to do a little legalization, law, and order and take a look at tax law. We all know about the IRS 280E, which is that little section of tax law that says marijuana sellers cannot deduct the standard costs of doing business. James G. Hunt will be joining us to talk about tax law and how it affects cannabis businesses and what are the latest attempts at the federal level to rectify this situation that forces legal cannabis sellers to do business with garbage bags full of cash. We've got to fix that, don't we? Also coming up on the show, we'll have some drug war data mining for you today. And today we've got a poll coming out of Quinnipiac University, a poll on legalization in Colorado and the numbers of people that have tried marijuana since it has become legalized. Here's a hint: more people use it when it's legal. Also coming up on the show today, in Behind the Headlines, we're going to take another look at Colorado, and particularly a school district in the Fort Collins area that is in desperate need of air conditioning, but is refusing to apply for grants to access some of that Colorado pot tax money that was promised to the schools. It's kind of an interesting situation. We'll get behind the headlines on that and give you a little more detail so you can understand what's going on there. But all that comes after the 420 radio news. And in the news today is the day Alaska has become the 3rd state to have legal marijuana possession, cultivation, and trading. That's thanks, of course, to their ballot initiative that passed with 53%. We've got the Attorney General of Colorado, the new Republican Attorney General, saying that marijuana legalization is just not worth it. Returning back to Alaska, the governor there has introduced the bill to create the Marijuana Control Board that will be necessary for the implementation of the market side of legalization in Alaska. We've also got a legalization measure being proposed in the state of Maryland and in Ohio. As we reported in Hour 2 yesterday, the Attorney General has dismissed and rejected the proposed constitutional amendment by Responsible Ohio. But of course, they're coming back with a new amendment that's a little bit better to those of us who would like to see true legalization. We'll tell you all about that. Plus, in Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio will take your calls at 971-533-7111 and get you the latest daily Toker tune from our friend Electric Bob for our Electric Tuesday. The 420 Radio News is next. Stay tuned. We're right back after this.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio, your ticket to the Boston Freedom Rally. This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay. Read the Weed Blog today.
Funky Roller Ring.
This is Big Daddy, and I want you to join me every Thursday night for some good old soul, funk, and disco at the Funky Roller Ring on 420 Radio. You dig?
Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the fourth Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers. It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
This is your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, February 24th, 2015. It's not worth it, Colorado Attorney General Cynthia Coffman told dozens of fellow states' attorneys general at a conference in the nation's capital, referring to the $76 million in taxes and fees collected from pot sales last year. The recently inaugurated Republican rebuked legalization advocates' long-standing argument that regulating sales will eliminate the black market for marijuana and associated criminal activity, saying, quote, "Don't buy that argument. The criminals are still selling on the black market. We have plenty of cartel activity in Colorado and plenty of illegal action that has not decreased at all," end quote. Mason Tvert, the Colorado-based communications director of the Marijuana Policy Project, said Coffman's remarks about black market sales are counterintuitive, saying, quote, "If hundreds of millions of dollars in marijuana sales are taking place in licensed businesses, where would they be taking place if they were illegal?" End quote. Smoking, growing, and possessing marijuana became legal in Alaska today, thanks to a voter initiative aimed at clearing away 40 years of conflicting laws and court rulings. Initiative backers promised Native leaders that communities could still have local control under certain conditions, but the initiative did not provide clear opt-out language for tribal councils and smaller communities, forcing each one to figure out how to proceed Tuesday. November's initiative also banned smoking in public, but didn't define what that means, and lawmakers left the question to the Alcohol Regulatory Board, which planned to meet early today to discuss an emergency response. Police Chief Mark Mew said his officers in Anchorage will be strictly enforcing the public smoking ban. He even warned people against smoking on their porches if they live next to a park. Former television reporter Charlo Green, now CEO of the Alaska Cannabis Club, is having a grand opening on today in downtown Anchorage. Also in Alaska, Governor Bill Walker introduced a bill Monday that would create a marijuana control board in charge of regulating the industry in the state and giving the board the power to enforce its laws. Senate Bill 60 would create a new board housed under the State Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development. The director and staff of the State Alcoholic Beverage Control Board would also serve the 5-member Marijuana Control Board so that the new board could, quote, benefit from the considerable experience and expertise of the ABC board, end quote, Walker said in his transmittal letters to the legislature. A 5-member volunteer board would be comprised of 1 member from the public safety sector, 1 from the public health sector, 1 from a rural area, 1 or 2 from the marijuana industry, and 1 or 2 from the general public. The board members would be appointed by the governor and serve staggered 3-year terms. Lawmakers are considering a measure to legalize marijuana in Maryland. The Marijuana Control and Revenue Act of 2015 will be discussed at a hearing before the House Judiciary Committee. The measure is sponsored by Baltimore Delegate Kurt Anderson, who is hoping the 3rd time is a charm. Delegate Anderson tried twice before and both measures failed. This year's proposal, like the others, would allow adults 21 years or older to legally possess 1 ounce of marijuana, even grow up to 6 plants at home. The bill would tax and regulate marijuana just like alcohol. It would require the state comptroller to establish rules and regulations for the operation of cultivation facilities, product manufacturers, and retailers. The proposed legislation would also create an oversight commission to monitor marijuana businesses. Proponents say the measure could be a long shot, but they're hoping lawmakers will be swayed by a recent poll showing 53% of Marylanders support legalizing marijuana. Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine on Monday rejected a proposed constitutional amendment that would legalize marijuana use in Ohio. Political Action Committee Responsible Ohio is pitching a legal, medical, and recreational marijuana industry with pot supplied from 10 specific growing sites, which have been promised to wealthy campaign backers. Taxes collected from sales at every level of the supply chain would provide revenue for local governments. DeWine's rejection is somewhat of a moot point. Responsible Ohio announced last week it would be submitting a new amendment and summary. The revised language allows adults over age 21 to grow up to 4 flowering plants for personal use as long as they apply for a license. If approved, the group must then collect more than 305,000 signatures of voters by July 1st to put the issue on the November ballot. This has been your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, February 24th, 2015. I'm Russ Belville.
420 Radio, freeing your mind 24 hours a day.
With over 1 billion people in the world, chances are there's somebody out there just like you. There are software engineers, pastry chefs, artists, and people with medical conditions. And what do many of these people have in common? They use marijuana. It's expected that marijuana will be legalized in California. And when that happens, what will be the biggest concern? Safety. That's where we come in. High Def Transit is a discreet shuttle service that also serves as a mobile vapor room. Members can medicate on board, while our certified drivers get you to your destination safely, so you can enjoy the ride. So hop in, make friends, and ride safe. High Def Transit.
Get your tickets now for the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference March 15th and 16th at the Hilton in Eugene, Oregon, powered by MarijuanaPolitics.com. Former presidential candidate and 2-term New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson will deliver the keynote address. Harborside Health Center's Steve D'Angelo will present at the pre-conference VIP reception. You'll also hear from State Senator Floyd Przansky, New Approach Oregon's Anthony Johnson, Oregon marijuana attorneys Paul Loney and Leland Berger, and Oregon Liquor Control Commission's Director of Marijuana Programs, Tom Burns. Get your tickets at early bird pricing by acting now. Learn more at the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference at ommbc.com. This conference will provide you with a head start for success in the expanding Oregon marijuana industry. Get your tickets today at ommbc.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Time to go behind the headlines, and today we're taking a look at a strange situation where schools in Fort Collins, Colorado will not be getting any money from the marijuana excise taxes that have been collected over the past year. It's an interesting look at how our government operates, and in particular, we're taking a look at what is called the Poudre School District. I may be mispronouncing it. It's Poudre. But we'll just call them PSD for now. PSD is not going to be getting any money from in their district's 50 schools because they are not applying for it. Apparently, this money that goes out to the school districts is not an automatic thing. The constitutional amendment, Amendment 64 to legalize marijuana, taxed retail pot sales, and it promised that the first $40 million of the money that's collected from pot sales would go toward the schools. And this is a 15% excise tax, and it would be used to help Colorado's 178 public schools. The tax, when it's collected, goes into the Public Schools Capital Construction Assistance Fund, and from there, it gets transferred to something known as Building Excellent Schools Today, or BEST. And this BEST has a competitive grant program. And here's the problem. The BEST program had been set up to help with these schools that were in severe need of emergency funding. Colorado has all sorts of tax laws in place, in particular one called TABOR, the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. And part of that specifies that taxes have to be passed by the people, and if too much tax is collected, then that tax has to be refunded to the people. So as this school district has done, like many school districts have done, they've passed bonds and levies and all sorts of ways of keeping their funding flowing. This BEST program is just another way that they can get some funding for their schools, but they have to apply for it. And typically this BEST program gets about 3 times the applications than they have funding. So it is competitive. And the school district budget manager, his name's Dave Montoya, said that, quote, typically BEST is funding districts that have highly critical needs and are struggling to fund those needs within the district. Right now, we are not pursuing the BEST program and wouldn't get any direct revenue from pot sales, end quote. And part of his justification is that it being a competitive grant program, there's other school districts in much more dire need than the PSD, which is one of the more affluent school districts. But the parents in the PSD are complaining that many of the schools there do not have adequate air conditioning. And I know a lot of people think of Denver and Colorado and all of that as the Rocky Mountain High and cold, snowy states. But the fact is, August and early September, you can get temperatures in the 90s, even in the 100s there in Colorado, making it very difficult for the kids to study. And what happens then is teachers will keep the windows open or the doors open to try to get some airflow. And that flies in the face of the security procedures that have been in place since Columbine happened in Colorado. Because of school shootings, the schools are supposed to keep their doors closed and locked. Well, if it's 95 degrees in the classroom, they're not keeping those doors closed and locked. So I would see this as an emergency, as a very important need, but the people at the PSD are refusing to apply for these grants. And some parents are asking why there should be any grant involved in here at all, figuring that when they voted for legalized marijuana, they understood it to mean that all of the schools would be getting money from the legalized marijuana. The last time that the PSD applied for one of these BEST grants, they got $580,000 to fix their fire alarm systems. And that they had to back it up with a $16 million tax levy and a $120 million bond. Those two efforts added another $130 a year to the taxes on a median home there, a $275,000 home. So the taxpayers had to cough up another $130 in order to take care of the fire alarms last time. The estimate for the implementation of air conditioning in 50 schools would be $40 to $50 million. So obviously we don't have enough money in the school tax funds to get, or the pot tax funds to take care of all of that. But certainly some of the schools could be helped out. I just can't understand how the PSD doesn't see this as an emergency need and why they think they're doing so well. They can just turn away free pot money, especially when last time they needed money, they raised the tax burden for all of the property owners in the school district.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
That's what we're up to. We're thinking of the children. Kids shouldn't have to learn in an unair-conditioned classroom when we've got pot tax money that will buy air conditioners. Of course, there's a whole lot of things we should be spending money on to help the kids that we don't, but we don't have enough time in the show to cover all of that. We come back with some drug war data mining, a new poll from Quinnipiac right after this.
420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest. Are you in the market for portable vaporizers now? Get online to vapes.buzz, the quick and easy link to portablevaporizers.now.com. Vapes.buzz has everything you are looking for, including vape pens, herbal vaporizers, e-juice, parts, accessories, and more. Visit vapes.buzz and use promo code 420radio to get 10% off your online purchase, or just give them a call at 866-264-2415. Vapes.buzz. Get vaping, baby!
Hey, this is Big Daddy, and I want you to know it's never too late to join me at the Funky Roller Ring every Thursday night, right here on 420 Radio.
Funky Roller Ring.
I like it like that.
Get.buzz. .buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
Welcome back, everyone. In the Drug War Data Mine today, we get some information brought to us by way of 9 News in Colorado and a poll that was recently taken by Quinnipiac University. And the survey finds that about 1 out of 5 adults in Colorado has used marijuana since legal recreational sales began on January 1st of 2014. The number is actually 19% of Coloradoans who've reported using marijuana since it has become legal to sell in Colorado. It's kind of interesting. Before marijuana was legalized, Quinnipiac's pollsters asked if marijuana becomes legal. They asked this back in August of 2013. If marijuana becomes legal, do you intend on trying it? And 15% of the people back then said they would try marijuana. So actually, more people have tried marijuana than said they would try marijuana. Maybe some of that's attributable to people not wanting to tell pollsters what they're up to, or perhaps as legalization has rolled out, some of the people recognized that it wasn't much of a big deal. As more information came their way, they realized they wanted to give it a try too. Now, this is a number that has been rising. In February of 2014, 10% of adults had tried marijuana. And in April, that number had risen to 15%. So now we've got a number at 19%, a number that's steadily increased throughout the year of legal pot sales. This is something that our opponents will seize on. They will say, oh my God, we legalized pot and now use has gone up. And I think it's time for us as a legalization movement to get in front of that. For the longest time, as we've proposed marijuana legalization, we've said, well, everybody that's using pot, that wants to use pot is, and pot legalization isn't going to change who really uses pot that much. And I think we're beginning to find that that's not entirely the case. There are some people out there who would like to use pot, but do not because it is illegal. And once you make it legal, and once they have better access to it, more of them are wanting to use. I think the important part for us as reformers is to focus on who are these people that are now using legal marijuana. And I think we'll find as we start doing demographic surveys that the average age of the pot smoker is rising in Colorado. We've already seen indications that seniors, people over the age of 50, are the fastest growing demographic for marijuana use on a monthly basis, rising from less than 1 million to over 3 million in the 10-year period between 2002 and 2012, where there used to be 1 older toker for every 2 teenage tokers. There's now 3 older tokers for every 2 teenage tokers. It's also important that we emphasize the fact that marijuana legalization hasn't changed youth use much, at least that we can confirm absolutely. There is some conflicting data on the youth use. The Colorado Healthy Kids Survey showed that there was a decline from 24.8% to just 20% of youth that were using on a monthly basis. But the National Survey on Drug Use and Health saw an increase on kids that were using on a monthly basis. We still have yet to see what's happening there, but it's also important for us not to try to gauge whether or not marijuana ought to be legalized on whether or not more kids are using it. Certainly alcohol being legal means more kids use it than if it were prohibited, but nobody is suggesting that we prohibit alcohol. And speaking of alcohol, according to the same Quinnipiac poll, 64% of adult Coloradoans indicate that they're using alcohol on a monthly basis, and 30% of adult Coloradoans are indicating that they're using tobacco on a regular basis. So still, marijuana is below the use of alcohol and tobacco in Colorado. It would also be interesting to correlate the information of these various surveys on alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana use to see if rising marijuana use is causing a decline in alcohol or tobacco use. We might be able to find a correlation, but is there a causal relationship there? Are people now able to choose legal marijuana, deciding not to choose legal alcohol or tobacco as often? Is there some sort of substitution effect? We'll have to find out as we keep on watching these statistics come in. And to me, the best statistic in this survey from Quinnipiac University is the approval of marijuana legalization. 58% of Coloradoans say they support their legalization law. Keep in mind that the legalization law, the amendment, passed with just 53% of the vote in 2012. So over the span of 2 years, we've seen an increase in 5 percentage points in the support for marijuana legalization. It seems to me the adults in Colorado are recognizing that regulation works far better than prohibition, despite what their new Attorney General might have to think about it. We also would note that the use of marijuana in Colorado is also being driven a lot by tourists who are coming into the state, and their use may not be reflected on this Quinnipiac poll, as it was surveying people who are residents of the state of Colorado, not those who are visitors to the state of Colorado. Those visitors, like I said, are bringing in a very large amount of the marijuana sales, especially in the resort areas, the ski resort areas, and so forth. So good news coming out of Quinnipiac, and time for us to stop worrying about the fact that marijuana use will increase under legalization.
420 Radio, your ticket to the High Times Cannabis Cups. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney." Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you.
In the marijuana law reform movement, the cannabis community is represented by thousands of dedicated defense attorneys fighting to end prohibition and keep us free. The Russ Belville Show visits with the tireless courtroom crusaders in our Legalization, Law, and Order.
Welcome back, everyone. Time for us to get into some law and order. And joining us on the telephone today, we've got James G. Hunt, a practicing attorney and a writer for the Canna Law blog. James, welcome to the show.
Hi, Russ. How you doing?
Doing good. It was nice meeting you at the event just a little while ago, and so glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, so I wanted to talk about this topic of marijuana and taxation. Our audience is somewhat familiar with the situation of the IRS 280E, this little part of the IRS code that forbids the marijuana dispensaries, the lawful cannabis businesses, and the pot shops, for that matter, in Washington and Colorado from deducting their standard cost of goods. Can you tell us a little bit more about the current situation, and then we'll get into this new memo that's come out?
Oh, okay. So, really, the new memo is the current situation. For a long time, there was nothing from the IRS on what to do about 280E. In fact, periodically, I'd type in 280E on the website and would come up with nothing, which I thought was kind of interesting. But in any event, at the end of last year, the Office of Professional Responsibility, which pretty much regulates people that prepare tax returns, kind of realized that these returns are coming, they're going to be filed, and they're going to have to start giving some guidance to taxpayers and people that prepare tax returns as to what to do. And operating in this kind of vacuum, a lot of retailers and other businesses were allocating certain expenses to their cost of goods sold under some various, different accounting ways of looking at it, and because frankly they just didn't have any guidance. And so I guess we can kind of get into the memo now. I mean, the memo came out a few weeks back from the General Counsel's office at the IRS, which is basically the think tank of the IRS, and someone asked the question of how do we apply 280E in the context of the cannabis industry. And kind of what came back was a pretty narrow and somewhat disappointing result.
All right, so this is a memo that was out just a month ago, January 23rd, how 280E should be applied for the cannabis industry. But now you make a point in the blog of saying this is just a memo, it's not a precedent or anything like that, right?
Right. That's exactly right. You can't really rely on it to cite to the IRS if you ever audited or not. But it does kind of give you an insight into what the IRS is thinking. And the memo itself have some phone numbers of some people who, in fact, are the IRS experts on Section 280E. So the people assigned to understand this code section were probably involved in writing this memo.
Okay, so for people out there who are involved in cannabis businesses, what can we tell them as far as what's allowed to be deducted and what's not?
Right. I always looked at it like there's 4 buckets of costs you can kind of categorize, and there's a bucket of costs that you can always deduct, like rent, utilities, and that doesn't change under the memo. There's some prohibited costs like income tax. That doesn't change. And then there's this kind of gray area of costs that it depends on your accounting treatment. Well, the good news is the memo doesn't affect the deductibility of those types of costs. What the memo does affect is the kind of 4th bucket, which is basically, don't want to bore anybody here, but it's called the UNICAP rules. And those are where people are making allocations of, production costs and whatnot to their cost of goods sold. The memo pretty much disallows those types of allocations.
So this is going to lead to mass increase in the tax burden for a lot of these cannabis businesses. Is there any relief for them on the horizon?
Well, it's a real dilemma because on one hand they're telling you can't follow the memo, and then they kind of interpret it very narrowly. And so I think people are going to have to speak with their tax advisor and tax preparer to see what people's, everybody has a different viewpoint on how aggressive they want to be when they prepare a tax return. But at least they have to compare what they want to do with what this memo lays out. And unfortunately, it really is, there's still a lot of uncertainty as to, what you can do.
Okay, so in addition to being able to deal with things like the utilities and the rent, what if somebody needs to pay for labor, their staff, their trimmers? What about that stuff?
Well, and I have to be careful here. I don't want to give legal advice over the phone, but you have to really look to see if it is an indirect cost that would fit into this Category 3, which is if your accounting system would allow it to be included in the cost of goods sold, you probably have a good argument that it would be included for tax purposes.
Okay. We're speaking with James G. Hunt. He's an attorney and managing member of the law office of James G. Hunt, working on multi-state tax issues and federal and state tax controversies. And we're talking about marijuana taxes in Section 280E. You can find James's post on this at the Canna Law blog, and we're going to post that right here in our chat room if anyone wants to follow and get in touch with you or find out more about this information. Now, moving forward, James, what sort of efforts are being done at the federal level to address this 280E situation?
Well, I really think there's been talk of including it in a bill to repeal it, but I think it's fairly uncertain at this point what's going to happen because this is a pretty obscure tax code, and Washington it may not get the attention of people in Washington. So I think really what needs to happen is everybody needs to contact their representative and let their opinions be heard about this tax issue.
This is something that's of very important consequence to the people in the cannabis states, but I would also encourage people in non-cannabis states to call their representatives as well, because this is federal taxes we're talking about. You don't have to be a Californian to care about what's going on with Harborside or any of these other entities. So looking at the federal Congress now, of course, in the hands of Republicans, and while they've made some moves here with respect to things like industrial hemp or supporting the medical marijuana movement, what's your feeling? Can you read the tea leaves on how the Republican Congress might want to deal with these tax issues, if at all?
Yeah, I'm not a political pundit, that's for sure. I'm just a pointy-headed tax guy. So I'm not gonna. I really don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I really think the important thing is that at a national level, people try and draw attention to how unfair this section is, and to get it repealed, or at least to kind of get a dialogue going. And I really think that's the best hope at this point.
Yeah, all right. So, James, thank you for that information, and I encourage anyone who wants to know more about these tax issues, IRS 280E, check out the Canna Law blog. James has got some great information and previous links on other stories as to why this entire section just needs to be repealed. How about that? What are the chances of getting this just repealed?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. It depends. It depends on a whole lot of things. It's really bad tax policy. That the tax code was set up just to kind of measure how much tax you owe. It wasn't meant to punish. And this is a code section that was kind of designed to target and punish people selling cannabis.
Yeah. All right. Well, James, before we let you go, if you've got any other contact information or websites you'd like to tell our listeners about if they want more information.
Oh, no, yeah, www.cannalaw.com. jghuntlaw.com.
All right, jghuntlaw.com. James, it was nice meeting you at the event, and we'll see you at the next one.
Hey, thanks a lot. Take care.
All right. Stay tuned, folks. When we come back, we've got Alex Rogers from the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference. You know that's true because Roscoe told you so. We'll be back right after this.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio, turning red states and blue states green. You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day.
Wait, you're all right, lads. It's like in my head, you know. We had a chat with everyone. Hey, Jill, how are you? Everything's absolutely amazing. I haven't seen you for ages. Haven't seen you last week. I mean, you're not invited. Don't I know you? What's your name? Oh, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I'll make you. What are you laughing at? A little bit stressed, a little bit panicky. You're a little bit painful, a little bit stressed. You're all right. What's your name? You're all right. You're feeling okay.
The more you mess with cannabis, the more it can mess with your mind. To find out more, talk to Frank.
This has been the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. To cure this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Russ Belville Show every weekday on 420radio.org. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
Welcome back, everyone. Joining us here at the desk at Rolla J Studios, we've got Alex Rogers from the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Russ. How you doing, man?
I'm fantastic. And on the other side that you can't see is Anthony Johnson hanging out on that mic. How you doing, Anthony?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having us.
Great, thank you. We'll have Anthony in just a second. We'll talk to Alex first because, first of all, I want to congratulate you on what was an incredible International Cannabis Business Conference in San Francisco.
Thank you. You know, it was incredible, and you always kind of have before you do an event, you kind of envision how it's going to go down, how you'll be received, and rarely is it congruent to what you originally thought. and this one exceeded all of our expectations. So I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, it was an amazing event. Everyone I talked to said that they were really thrilled about the event and learned a ton of great stuff. Steve D'Angelo was there. Rick Steves gave a speech. We had Dr. Carl Hart, who's a rock star, and he was just wonderful. And now the next conference you've got, and you just finished a conference, and now you're doing another conference because you didn't have enough to do, right?
Right.
Coming up March 15th and 16th, it's the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference. Give us the sketch on this one. What's happening with this conference?
Yeah, well, this will be the third Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference, and the reason we did it was because of the timing. So, and there wasn't too much crossover with the San Francisco event, so a little bit, but not too much. And you will see, we will have some of the same attendees, but basically we wanted to keep it going. And as we legalized, Russ, we thought we were going to call it now the Oregon Cannabis Business Conference.
Yeah.
But we decided not to do that because we kept it the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference because we wanted to make sure that people don't forget about medical marijuana and, the fact that those laws are, originally when I was working with Jack Hare 20 years ago, we said, no medical marijuana, let's just go for rec. Well, now those same people, like Jack, rest in peace, are saying, well, keep medical until rec comes close to what medical does.
Right.
So we wanted to make it also somewhat of a referendum on saving or just keeping the OMP intact exactly like it is. We could talk about changing it, but let them get that daunting task of figuring out rules and recs first. And so we're kind of making it a referendum on that, and then keeping the rules and recs real simple too, and not everyone getting too excited or complicating things too much. But the conference itself is going to be amazing, and it caters to everybody. In that we've got Governor Gary Johnson keynoting. Amazing libertarian candidate for president. I think he got like 1.2 million votes in 2012. I know a lot of people that actually voted for him. And then we have Steve D'Angelo on the second day keynoting, and he knocked it out of the box with the interview with Steve Bloom at the ICBC. And we're really excited to have him back also. And what we're also doing, which is really important, is we're going right into what does it mean to be a producer? What does it mean to be a processor? What does it mean to be a dispensary? Okay, we are talking about what that means under rec auspices and what that means under medical auspices, and kind of what's the tenor in the legislature right now, and what folks can expect in terms of those administrative procedures.
Yeah, it's a complex situation right now. We've got medical marijuana businesses. We are about to have recreational marijuana businesses, but those don't kick off until 2016. Even just the licensing doesn't even start off till 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
So it's going to be a while after that before we're actually selling the first bud.
That's right. And that's why we're saying don't mess with medical. I mean, it's the cardinal rule. Look at Washington. And then you have to look at California's chances. If California is going to legalize, they've got to know that their medical isn't going to be immediately
ransacked.
Yes, ransacked. It's got to be a smart, slow procedure, and rec has to play itself out. And so, if Oregon messes with their medical marijuana program too drastically, then it really will hurt the legalization chances of California. And I feel that it resonates. Oregon's public policy decisions on medical marijuana will resonate throughout the world, actually.
Absolutely. And this is where I'd like to bring Anthony Johnson in on this, because there's been a lot of political controversy over this, just owing to the fact that, Measure 91 said 3 times will not affect Oregon medical marijuana program. And a lot of people put their faith into that. And the first thing we hear out of the legislature is, let's just scrap the medical marijuana program. What are the plans here to keep this on track?
I think a vast majority of advocates, including New Approach Oregon, but Compassion Oregon and Oregon Sun-Grown Growers Guild, all kinds of activists and organizations in Oregon want to ensure that the medical marijuana program stays. And so we are really united mostly across the state of Oregon to remind legislators, the will of the voters, the fact that over 56% of voters, more than 100,000 that cast votes for the our former governor, and more than 50,000, and incumbent U.S. senator, voted on a measure that stated the medical marijuana program would remain separate from the OLCC. And that will, so just need to remind the will of the voters. Also, just a practical aspect of having to implement the Measure 91 rules and regulations. There's really no reason to complicate things and take on things that are divisive and just add more work. There's a lot of work to be done. Let's handle the basics of the licensing, child-proofing, marketing of marijuana for adults over the age of 21, and then we can tackle issues as they come about, and let's just implement the will of the voters first and foremost.
You know, you mentioned the fact that we have a former governor, Kitzhaber, is out, and Kate Brown, the former Secretary of State, is in. How does that augur for things that are happening? I know Kitzhaber had these principles that had to be upheld. Wasn't Kate Brown given any signals?
Kate Brown has not yet. You know, she's definitely had her hands full transitioning into office. But if you look at her history, her past history is much better than Governor Kitzhaber.
Yeah.
Kitzhaber signed into law the recriminalization of an ounce of marijuana that passed out of the 1997 legislature. Kate Brown opposed that, and she endorsed the people's effort to have a referendum on the legislature the following year.
Which I actually got 1,000 signatures for. A little known fact.
Oh, really? Oh, fantastic. Yeah, so there was, of course, everyone knows Oregon was the first to decriminalize in 73. Kitzhaber was behind kind of this anti-pot wave that in 97 in the legislature recriminalized marijuana. And then in 98, at the same time we were passing medical, we were also beating down, I think it was like a 2/3 margin too, like a huge vote.
Huge.
We beat down that recriminalization.
Yeah, recriminalization got more votes than medical, and I believe, or defeating recriminalization, and I believe it actually carried every county.
The referendum.
The referendum, that's right.
And so based upon her past history, we definitely need to remain vigilant and remind our new governor about the will of the voters. However, it looks like we've gone from an opponent of legalization of marijuana to at least someone who's neutral. And so I think that the cannabis community in Oregon has upgraded with our recent change in governor.
All right. We're speaking with Anthony Johnson from New Approach Oregon. He was also the chief petitioner for Measure 91 here in the state of Oregon, which passed with the greatest support of any state legalization measure. We've also got Alex Rogers here from the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference. That's taking place on March 15th and 16th. That's another Sunday, Monday. Am I correct?
Yes, Sunday, Monday at the downtown Hilton in Eugene. It's going to be off the hook, Russ.
All right. And I know with these last few events that we've done, we've also had some VIP things. Rocker T has performed. Del the Funky Homo Sapiens performed. What do we got for after hours?
We actually have a VIP Saturday evening. We have a separate ticketed event for $150. The VIP with Steve D'Angelo, and almost every other speaker at the event's going to be there also. I know you and Anthony are going to be there also, so we're looking forward to that. But Del the Funky Homo Sapien is performing at Cosmic Pizza on the night of the 15th. So he's a legendary West Coast rapper, and that is actually a free event for anybody who purchases a ticket to the OMMBC.
I will endorse that highly. Of course, I endorse everything highly, but I tell you, usually when I see, they're setting up a DJ and a guy's going to rap, yippee, right? I'm not usually very thrilled with that. Del is so musical.
Yeah.
He is such a great performer that, even a curmudgeon like me loved it.
Exactly, and that's why I've known Del for a long time now, over 20 years now, and I've been doing shows with Hieroglyphics and Del for many years, and I used to produce a lot of hip hop shows, and I was a rapper myself, and I decided to strictly do Hyro shows for a few different reasons. I love their messaging. Mm-hmm. No B words or N words coming out like crazy. And,
right.
It's real intellectual.
Not so misogynistic.
No, it's not
either.
It's not at all. And so it's what we call native tongue. It was a term that's coined back in the early '90s. And his performance is amazing. He's taken on the P-Funk legacy and he's brought it to hip hop. And you can really see that he really is the funky Homo sapien, and personified, and he's I don't know. I really think he is one of the best hip-hop performers on the earth today.
Make sure you get on to ommbc.com because there's early bird pricing going on, and these things sell out. Have you not sold out one of these yet?
Yeah, well, we didn't sell out Portland because we did it at the Portland Ballroom that fit like 2,000 people. So, but this one has a good chance of selling out, and we're on the trajectory to do so right now. So tickets are only $2.99, which is a heck of a deal. The international ones are almost twice that much, $2.99 until March 6th, and then they go up midnight March 6th to $3.49, and then they'll be $400 at the door.
Yeah, and sometimes I know people see these tickets like, oh my God, hundreds of dollars. But look, first of all, unlike a lot of the events that I've had to I shouldn't say had to cover, that I've covered, are events where there's a main speaker and then there's all these little breakout things, and you always feel like you're paying for more rooms than you never got to see. Not this one. This is all this one thing.
Yes, and in fact, that's what inspired me to do these conferences. Is I had been to a few conferences also, and I just thought it was kind of all fluff. You know, the networking is always good, seeing your old school homies or whatever, but the information was just fluffy. And the whole, and you know, I've been an event producer for years. I actually produced the Cannabis Cup for 5 years. I ran the Milkfeg Concert House for the Cannabis Cup, amongst a million other things I've done. But I know how to do an event, and I know how to make it so we can focus the energy. We're not an expo at the OMMBC. We do have exhibitors, but it's limited to however many 6-foot tables can fit in this certain small area. And so it's just an accoutrement to the event. What we do is we have information, and we have a one track, and then we don't have multiple tracks or breakouts because we like focusing that energy. We like focusing the crowd and the networking, and then because we only have one track, you know, it's incumbent upon us to make it the dopest track ever, and that's what we do. You know, you go to the website and folks can check it out, but it's no joke. What we're here to do is give people real information that they can take with you. It's not a get-rich-quick conference. It's not an invest in the cannabis, you know, how to invest or none of that. It's, hey, if you're a mom and pop business or you're another business that's an ancillary business that wants to get into this field, what do you need to know? And so there's a strong undercurrent of advocacy that we teach because we think you need to know the politics and the culture and the advocacy aspect of what's going on here to aid to your business. And then we get right down and dirty to what's going on in terms of how can you succeed in business and what are some of the things you need to know right now in terms of the rapidity of the changing laws.
Yeah, and that's an aspect I appreciate of this, having come from the activism side of this, is to see people in the business side advocating to give back to the advocacy that actually created that business. So many of these green rush type conferences, it's all about how quick can we make the money.
That's right.
And they don't pay attention to the proper respect to the past.
That's right. The Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference is Oregon for Oregonians, and it's plain and simple. You know, we're a progressive state. We have a libertarian streak in our state. And we just we adhere to those precepts and let that kind of overflow into our not only political philosophies but business philosophies. And what we want to do is we want to see small businesses grow and thrive. And we want to see the average Oregonian be able to put a few extra bucks in their pocket and actually maybe even a few more if they're ready to work for it. And so that's the type of stuff that we're teaching and that we prescribe to.
Looking forward to it. Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference. We'll bring you damn near live coverage. We'll have little 5-minute clips here and there so you can see what's happening. But if you want the full meal deal, get online to ommbc.com right now. Keynote with Governor Gary Johnson on the first day. Tom Burns from the Oregon Health Authority will be there. We've got Senator Floyd Przansky, one of the state leading legislators in this area. Anthony Johnson's going to be speaking there. We've got a media panel that some guy in a hat and some sunglasses is on.
And we actually just booked Noel Crombie for that media panel yesterday.
Good to hear. And on day 2, you got Stevie D'Angelo. You got producer information on extracts, retailing, testing, and entrepreneurship. It's all happening at the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference. Check out ommbc.com. That's all the time we got for Hour 1, but stay tuned. Hour 2, we'll talk to these guys a little bit more if they're willing to hang out, and we'll bring you more news and views you can use for the cannabis community. For Anthony Johnson and Alex Rogers, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time. Take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant